In this video, I will discuss some electrostatics problems from previous question papers of JEE Main. This is the first question. An electric charge 10 raised to minus 3 microcoulomb is placed at the origin 0, 0 of xy coordinate system. 2 points A and B are situated at root 2, root 2 and 2, 0 respectively. The potential difference between the points A and B will be. You have to know the formula for potential due to a point source. You can pause and attempt this question. The charge 10 raised to minus 3 microcoulomb is located at the origin, and the 2 points, let's call them A and B, have coordinates root 2, root 2 and 2, 0. The potential is given as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, the charge divided by the distance. The charge Q is 10 raised to minus 3 microcoulomb, and the distance of point A from this charge is square root of root 2 square plus root 2 square, that is 2. And potential at point B is Q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 1 by the distance, and this distance is 2. So the values of potential at points A and B are same. So the potential difference between A and B is 0. The correct option is option 2. This question can be extended for more than one charge being present, and the potential will be the summation of potential due to the individual charges. This is by superposition principle. So in this problem, suppose if there is a second charge somewhere here, then there will be a one more term to this potential. There will be 1 by 4 epsilon naught, the second charge will be the distance of the second charge from point A. Similarly, there will be a second term for potential at point B. And suppose there is a third charge here, then that will contribute the third term. It will be 1 by 4 epsilon naught, the third charge divided by the distance of the third charge from point A. So this problem can be generalized for more than one charge. This is the next question. Charges are placed on the vertices of a square as shown. Let E be the electric field and B the potential at the center. If the charges A and B are interchanged with those on D and C respectively, then option 1, electric field E remains unchanged, the potential B changes. Option 2, both change. Option 3, both remain unchanged. Option 4, electric field changes but B remains unchanged. We should know the formula for electric field due to a point charge and also the potential due to a point charge, and you have to sum the electric field due to all the point charges, and electric field is a vector, so that sum will be a vector sum, and potential due to all the point charges should also be added up, and potential is a scalar, so that sum will be a scalar sum. You can pause and attempt this question. So the charges are located like this. So electric field is force on a unit positive charge. So let us assume that the charge Q is positive. That will affect the answer of this problem. So because of this small q here, there will be a repulsive force in this direction, and because of this minus q here, there will be an attractive force in this direction, and due to the charge q here, there will be a repulsive force in this direction, and due to this minus q, there will be an attractive force in this direction. So the net of electric field of all these 4 point charges will be vertically downwards. The horizontal component, the right and the left, will be equal, and they will cancel each other. And when the charges are interchanged, the electric field directions will reverse. So the net electric field will be in the upward direction, and the horizontal component, one towards right and one towards left, will cancel, and the net electric field will be in the upward direction. Electric field is a vector quantity. It has got both the magnitude and direction. The magnitude is same, but the direction is changing from downward to upward. So the electric field changes. So we can rule out options 1 and 3. The potential is given as scalar sum that is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, the charge will be the distance. So that will turn out to be 0, as there are equal number of positive and negative charges and they are at the same distance. And when the charges are interchanged, again it is 0. So the potential remains unchanged. The third option is option 4. The basic idea is the electric field is a vector quantity and potential is a scalar quantity. So for electric field to be same, both the direction and the magnitude has to be same. This is the next question. The potential at a point x measured in micrometer due to some charges situated on x-axis is given by Vx equal to 20 divided by x square minus 4 volt. The electric field E at x equal to 4 micrometer is given by. So you should know how the electric field is related to the potential V. Using that we can solve this problem. You can pause and attempt this question. So the electric field is related to the potential as its negative gradient. In this problem, the potential is dependent on only one space coordinate, so it's a 1D problem. And derivative of the potential with respect to x is -1, denominator is to the power -2, and the derivative of the denominator, that is 2x. And putting the value of x equal to 4 micrometer, we get the value of electric field as 10 by 9 volt per micrometer. And the direction is I cap, so it's along the positive x-axis. Correct option is option 4. This is the next question. A thin spherical shell of radius r has a charge q spread uniformly over its surface. Which of the following graphs most closely represents the electric field ER produced by the shell of charge in the range r 0 to infinity, where r is the distance from the center of the shell. So since this problem has got spherical symmetry, we can solve this problem by using Gauss's law. You can pause and attempt this question. So this is a thin spherical shell on which there is a charge q and it is uniformly spread. That's why it has got spherical symmetry. The problem does not have any direction dependence. So in the spherically symmetric shell, the electric field inside is 0. This is a standard result which you can use here. This is obtained by taking a Gaussian surface inside. The Gaussian surface will be a spherical surface which is inside. Using Gauss's law, we can find out the electric field on that surface is 0. So electric field at all the points inside the spherical shell will be 0. And for the points outside, it will be equal to a point charge q located at the center. This is also a standard result we can use here, and this result can be obtained by taking Gaussian surface whose radius is greater than the radius of this spherical shell, and the Gaussian surface is a spherical surface. And electric field due to a point charge goes as 1 by r square. So electric field due to this spherical shell will also go as 1 by r square. So the correct option is option 1. This is the next question. A charge q is placed at each of the opposite corners of a square. A charge q is placed at each of the other two corners. If the net electric field on capital Q is 0, then the ratio q by q is. So you should know the formula for force between 2 point charges, which is given by Coulomb's law. You can pause and attempt this question. So the charges are placed like this. The force acting on capital Q is 0. Due to this capital Q, there will be a repulsive force in this direction because both are of like sign. And since the net force acting on capital Q is 0, the force between small q and capital Q should be attractive nature. Only then it's possible to cancel this force. And the force due to small q will be in this direction and in this direction, since there are two small q's. So the result of these two FQ, which is separated by 90 degrees, will be root 2 FQ along the bisector. That will be making 45 degrees and will be the direction opposite to this capital FQ. So FQ should balance root 2 FQ. So and FQ is given by Coulomb's charge square divided by the distance square, and this distance is root 2a. Side of the square is a, so the diagonal is root 2a, and FQ is q into q divided by a square. So from this we get q by q as 2 root 2, and the sign of small q is opposite to that of capital Q. Only then this attractive force will be possible. So the ratio is minus 2 root 2. Correct option is option 3. So the basic idea is zero force on a charge due to other charges present on one side is possible only if both like and unlike charges are present. In this question, for this charge capital Q, the remaining charges are present on one side. So for the force due to the remaining charges on this charge to be 0, there should be some repulsive force and some attractive force. Only then it is possible for this force on this capital Q to be 0. That is why this charge of Q is opposite to that of capital Q. Zero force on a charge due to other charges of same kind is possible only if they are surrounding the given charge. For example, suppose if you have a positive charge here and the remaining charges are negative, and suppose if they are on one side, it is not possible for the force on this positive charge to be 0. But if you have the negative charge surrounding it, then it is possible for the force on this positive charge to be 0. This is the next question. This question contains statement 1 and statement 2. Of the 4 choices given after the statements, choose the one that best describes the 2 statements. Statement 1. For a charged particle moving from point P to Q, the net work done by an electrostatic field on the particle is independent of path connecting points P and Q. Statement 2. The net work done by conservative force on an object moving along a closed loop is 0. 4 options are given. You have to check whether statements 1 and 2 are true or false and see whether they are related. You can pause and attempt this question. In the statement 1, it says it's an electrostatic field. So it's a electrostatic field is a conservative force field. So in a conservative force field, the work done is independent of path. So statement 1 is true. And statement 2 says in a conservative force field, the work done along a closed loop is 0. So in a conservative force field, suppose if this is a closed loop, and let us consider this point P here. So the work done in moving from this point along this closed path and coming back to the same point is same as moving from this point to the same point in this direction. So the work done along this path, since the path length is 0, it is 0. So the work done along this closed loop is also 0, because the work done from moving from point to the same point along this path and also along the closed loop should be same, and along this path it is 0 because the path length is 0. So the statement 2 is also true, and both the statements are equivalent. They are related to the fact that in a conservative force field, the work done is independent of path between any 2 points. This is the next question. Two points P and Q are maintained at the potential of 10 volts and minus 4 volts respectively. The work done in moving 100 electrons from P to Q is. So you should know the formula for work done in moving a charge across a potential difference. You can pause and attempt this question. So the work done in moving a charge Q across a potential difference is the value of the charge into the potential difference. Potential difference with the points P and Q is Vp minus Vq. that is 10 minus minus 4, so it's 14 volts. So the work done moving 100 electrons is 100 electron volts into 14 volts. So it's 100 into the charge of the electron is 1.6 in 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. So that is 2.24 in 10 to the minus 16 joules. The point P is a higher potential and Q is a lower potential. Electric field direction is from higher potential to lower potential. So to move an electron along the direction of electric field, work has to be done. Suppose if there is an electron here and it is free, it will have a tendency to move in the direction opposite to the electric field. So to move the electron in the direction of electric field, external work has to be done on it. So this work done on the electron is positive. So the answer is plus 2.24 in 10 to the minus 16 joules. The correct option is option 2. This is the next question. Let rho r be equal to q divided by 4 pi r is equal to 4 into r be the charge density distribution for a solid sphere of radius r and total charge q for a point p inside the sphere at distance r1 from the center of the sphere. The magnitude of electric field is. This problem has got spherical symmetry as the charge distribution depends only on the radial distance r and not the direction. So whenever the problem has got spherical symmetry, Gauss law can be used to solve the problem. We can pause and attempt this question. So this is the volume charge distribution, and let us consider a Gaussian surface, a spherical surface of radius r1 centered around the center of the volume charge distribution. So we can apply Gauss's law here. Integral E P dot dA equal to the charge which is present inside this Gaussian surface divided by epsilon naught. To get the charge inside this spherical surface, let us take a thin spherical shell of radius r. So the charge of the spherical shell will be its volume, that is 4 pi r square into dr into rho. So to get the total charge inside the sphere of radius r1, we have to integrate this one from radius 0 to r1. So that will give the total charge is present inside, that is q1, and we have to use the expression for rho as the one which is given here. So doing this simple integration, we get the total charge present inside radius r1 is q by r raised to the power 4 into r1 raised to the power 4. So using this value of q1 in this first expression we get, and the direction of EP and DE are same. EP is radially outward and DE is elemental area vector which is outward normal. So direction of EP and DE are same. So EP dot DA is EP into DA into cos 0, and EP is same for all the points on the spherical surface because all are at the same distance from the center. So EP will come out of the integral sign, and the integral will be just integral dA, which is the total surface area, it is 4 pi r1 square. So from this we get the expression for electric field at point P as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q divided by r raised to the power 4 into r1 square. The correct option is option 1. So electric field outside a spherically symmetric charge distribution is equivalent to that of a point charge located at the origin. So using this we can get the electric field at the distance r as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q divided by r square. So for a point on the spherical surface, it's as if the point is just outside. So this 4 volume charge can be considered as a point charge located at the center. So using that we can get the expression of electric field, and even from this expression, if you put the value of r1 as capital R, because this is valid up to capital R, we will get the same result. This is the next question. A thin semicircular ring of radius r has positive charge q distributed uniformly over it. The net electric field E at the center O is. So to solve this sort of problem, we have to take small element of this charge distribution, and that element will behave as a point charge. So using Coulomb's law, the definition of electric field, we know the electric field due to this small element, and integrating it we can get the electric field due to the entire semicircular ring. We can pause and attempt this question. So this is a semicircular ring, and let's take a small element, and the length of the element is r into d theta. So the electric field due to this small element is like there is a point charge, and it will be in this direction dE, and let it make an angle theta. So let us take an element which is symmetrically on the other side, which also makes an angle theta with the horizontal. So that will produce an electric field in this direction. So the result of these two electric fields will be vertically downwards, and the horizontal components will cancel. One will be in the right, one will be towards left. So if we take a pair of elements which are symmetrically placed above this middle point, the result of those two will be vertically downwards, and there won't be any horizontal component. And this electric field with this pair is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. The charge, which is lambda into this length, that is r d theta, divided by the distance square, r square, and sine theta. Vertical component is sine theta, and two of them because of the pair. And to get the total electric field with the semicircular ring, we have to integrate this thing from theta equal to 0 to 90 degrees. That will cover the full semicircular ring because we are taking pairs. So integrating this thing for theta of 0 to pi by 2, this is standard integration whose value is 1. We get the expression for electric field as this one, and the direction is vertically downwards, that is minus j cap. The correct option is option 4. So instead of a semicircular ring, if you have a full circular ring, the net electric field at the center will be 0. That can be understood like this semicircular ring, which is on the upward, it will produce an electric field downwards, and the remaining semicircular ring on the bottom will produce an electric field which is upwards of same magnitude. So both will cancel. Another way of understanding this is when you have a full circular ring, an element here and a diametrically opposite element, they will produce electric field in the opposite directions and they will cancel each other. And this element, the diametrically opposite element, the electric field due to them will cancel each other. So the electric field due to a full circular ring at the center will be 0. So in this video, the questions that I solved are from 12 to 20. I also take doubt solving sessions for physics and math subjects of JEE and NEET. So if you are interested, you can contact me by WhatsApp. This is the number, and the fees is nominal, 100 rupees per hour.